volunteer, this is the seniors right here? Seniors? Somebody, because I brought these slides to put on the screen while I talk, but I guarantee you, as if I'm responsible for switching them, I'm going to forget. So can somebody like volunteer to? Yeah, come on down here. If you're a volunteer, come down. And you can actually sit right here. It won't bother me a bit if like you look at my cue sheet here, right? And when I say those things, if I haven't switched the slide, you run over and switch it, all right? Just come right over and hit the space bar on this thing right here. Sound good? I usually have a little remote thing, but we let the dean borrow it and he didn't give it back, so that's where we're at. Hey, I want to be really honest with you. Can we be really honest with each other? When I began talking just a few seconds ago, I have a few assumptions in my mind about this morning, the next 20 minutes or so that we're going to be together. And those assumptions are actually about you. And so I just want to be honest and tell you what those assumptions are, okay? I have 3 of them. First assumption is this, that there's a certain kind of person here, and you might be one of those people. So my assumptions are dealing with the 3 different kinds of people that I think are in this room this morning. The first kind of person that I think is in this room is someone who really is glad to be here. I mean, you're actually looking forward to when you heard that there was going to be an assembly and somebody's going to speak, that you're actually, okay, I'm looking forward to hearing what this guy has to say. Maybe you even are the kind of person that brings a notebook and takes notes. Maybe that's the kind of ambition you have. So I assume that there might be maybe a handful of people like that. I hope I'm right. A second assumption I have is that there's a second type of person here, and that is the type of person who really is indifferent, maybe. Like, you're okay with being here, it's better than being in class, but you're not really that excited. I mean, you're not necessarily going to take notes, and you may not even listen, you may check out from time to time. And I get that there's sometimes that kind of person here as well. And then there's a third type of person that you really are maybe even resistant to being here. Like, I don't like these kinds of things. I hate assemblies. I don't really care what he has to say. It's not going to resonate with me a bit, and I'm probably just going to check out the entire time. Now, the reason I say that, and the reason I know that that's true, and I hope I'm actually wrong. I really hope that I'm wrong about at least one of those assumptions. But I don't think I am. And the reason I don't think I am is because I was actually all 3 of those. When I was in this particular gymnasium, I was all 3 of those. There were days when I didn't really want to be here, and I didn't care, and I didn't listen. And that was me. And there were days when I was a little different about it, and there were days when I was pretty excited about it, and something that guy said or that lady said really resonated with me, and it made a difference in my life. And I understand that. That's where we are. That's okay. While we're being honest, let me also say this. I'm nervous. I just realized that. And I think the reason I'm nervous is because my old communications teacher, my old language arts teacher, Miss McCoy, is here. At least she didn't bring a notebook. So that's good. Right? But it's a weird feeling for me because I talk in front of people every week. And I have spent my entire adult life giving speeches and giving talks to crowds as little as 15, 20, 30 people to audiences as big as 5,000. And so to create a talk for a student body of, I don't know, 500, 600 people, probably, it made me nervous. And I'm not exactly sure why, but it was one of the most challenging, the last couple of days has been one of the most challenging times for me in terms of preparing for this talk. Maybe we'll figure out why here together. When I was talking with one of my friends, and I told them I was going to go back to Meigs High School, where I graduated, and give a talk to the student body and the teachers here. He said, "Oh, you're going to talk about the good old days, right? The good old days." Hey, that's you. Yeah, I'll let you go ahead and I'll just let you do them all. Does that sound good? And I got to be honest. I don't know. I'm not so sure about, the good old days, That's me. That was me. Yeah, there's me. There's a lot of good old days there. The thing about good old days is this. Yeah, some of these days were good. Some of them were great. I mean, some of them I would say were awesome. I mean, for crying out loud. I actually met the love of my life here at Meigs High School, and I married her, and I'm still married to her today. For 26 years, we've had an awesome marriage, and it started here. It began here. Hey, thanks. I'll have to tell her that you clapped at that. But these days are really good, but you know what? I'll be honest with you. Here's the thing about good old days. Some of the best days that you'll have will be here, like in these hallways, in these classrooms. Believe it or not, yeah, in these classrooms. Some of the best days I had were here, in these hallways, in these classrooms, on these athletic fields, in this weight room, in this gymnasium, in these assemblies, and all these different things that you get to do. But here's the thing about good old days. They're always in the past. They're always something that happened back then, and the question that you have to keep asking yourself on a daily basis, and the question that I had to learn early in life was this: okay, that's good, what I did, but what am I doing now? Where am I going now? Where is what I'm doing now taking me? Because listen, I'm not defined by good old days. I shouldn't be. I'm not defined by this. I love this, but it shouldn't define me. There's a movie that was an old football movie that came out. My goodness, it came out before probably any of you were born. The Replacements. You ever heard that movie? Yeah, some of you have. Maybe teachers have, probably. But it was played by Keanu Reeves was in the movie. You probably know Keanu Reeves more as John Wick. You know, that's the actor we're talking about. Keanu Reeves was in the movie. He was a quarterback, and the players were all replacement players because the professionals were on strike. And his coach was played by a guy named Gene Hackman. And there was one day when Keanu Reeves was talking with Gene Hackman. They were out throwing the football together. And he asked him a question. He said, "Coach, why me? Of all the people that you could have selected to be the quarterback for this team, why me?" And this is how his coach responded to him. He said, "When I look at you, I see two men. The man you are and the man you ought to be." Now listen, Marauders, you're here right now. And these are your good old days. One day you're going to look back and then you're going to, yeah, these are your good old days. And that's great. That's wonderful. That's who you are. But there's another person that's out there in the future someday, and that's who you ought to be. And you're actually, believe it or not, you're creating that person right now. And so I want to ask you, do you know what that person looks like? Do you know what she looks like? Do you know what he looks like? And here's the thing about that question. You can't really answer that question. You don't know. There's no way really for you to know the answer to that question. One of my favorite statements about life came from an old philosopher named Soren Kierkegaard. And it's a little phrase that I have tried to live by, and it's been easy to live by because it's been easy for me to see and understand what he meant when he said it. He's an old Danish philosopher, theologian, poet, author, and he said this. He said basically this, that we live life forward, but we can only understand it and define it by looking backward. That life has to be lived by moving forward. But if you want to really understand what's happened to you, look back, and you'll start to understand. You'll start to see the pieces. And that has really happened. I mean, that's going to happen to you. What that tells me is that you just keep taking those steps forward. And you don't always know what that step is going to take you. Like when I was there, that skinny kid in those uniforms, I had no idea what the next step was going to be for me, where it was going to take me, what it was going to, the people it was going to introduce me to, the circumstances and opportunities and the doors that would open for me. I had no idea, but you got to keep taking them. And sometimes when you're taking them, you're upset because this isn't where I wanted to be. I didn't mean to be here. This isn't, but then you just keep taking those, and eventually one day you look back and what you see is this well-defined map that was created for your life. And who was it created by? Here, I'll give you the answer. It's one word, and it's the most important word that I'm going to give you today. Here it is. Choices. Choices. Right on cue. I love it. Now, if I could give you one thing for you to just remember all day today, it would be this. You are the sum total, right now, of the choices that you've made. Now, I know some of you right now are going, I don't know about that. I mean, some of you, that's a hard thing to accept, to hear somebody say that where you are right now, who you are right now, is the sum total of all the choices you've made. And some of you are objecting to that right now because you're thinking to yourself, dude, there have been things that have happened to me that I didn't choose. And I get that. I understand. That's true. In fact, I would be ridiculously naive to suggest that I believe that everything that has happened to you was your decision. You got to decide all the circumstances you're in. And I know that that's not true because that's not the way my life has worked. It's not the way anybody's life works. We get circumstances handed to us all the time that we would never choose for ourselves. So what do I mean by that when I say that you're the sum total of the choices you make? Here's what I mean. Let me ask you a question. Inside of all of those circumstances that have been given to you, some of them by your choice, some of them that you've had full control over, and others that maybe you didn't have any control over. Inside, whatever that circumstance is, wherever it took you, did you get to decide how you would respond to that circumstance? Do you get to make that choice? Sure you do. You can decide how you respond to every circumstance that happens to you. No one can take that from you. I read one of the greatest books I ever read. In fact, if I were still teaching language arts, I might actually introduce this to my classes. I would almost make a required reading for every human. Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. One of the greatest lessons that you could ever learn is to read about someone who had to be, he was completely enslaved in the prison camps in Auschwitz, and he had no choice about anything that was taking place to him. But there was one thing that he said that no one could take away from him, and that was his mind and how he was going to respond and how he viewed his circumstances and the next step he was going to take in the way that he decided what was happening to him. Listen, there's some things that nobody can take away from you. And how you decide, your choice to create who you are, to decide who you want to be, is completely yours. 100% yours. I want to tell you something. That's something that I remember. I learned that here. I love the fact that as a marauder, one of the things that I learned about what it meant to be a marauder is that I didn't have to conform to something that somebody else wanted me to be. I actually could create myself. I could decide who I wanted to be, and I could create that. And it was my choice. And that's your choice as well. And listen, it's been 30 years since I've been here. There's been a lot of, 30 years. It's hard to believe. Like this year's graduating class is 2020. I graduated in 90. That's a long time ago. It's hard to believe. I don't feel that old. I know I am. That's a lot of minutes. 30 years, and math was not my favorite subject, but I would say 30 years is about 15,778,000 and some odd minutes. I know I'm close. And you're thinking, well, that's a weird way to look at it. Why would you look at it in minutes? Why would you break it down like that? Here's why. Because every minute, you're making at least one choice every minute of your life. Right now. You're making choices right now. Some of you right now, you're making a choice whether or not you're going to listen to what I'm saying or not listen to what I'm saying. Some of you are making a choice right now. You may be making lots of choices in a minute. You might be thinking, what am I going to have for lunch? What answers am I going to put down on this test later? What am I doing after school? There's a lot of choices. And all of a sudden, you wrapped up choices. And over the span of your life, you're making tons and tons and tons of choices. It's happening. But here's the beauty of this truth about making choices and how many you get to make. What it means is, it doesn't matter where you are currently. It doesn't have to define you. Every choice that you make, with every choice that you make, you are turning the central part of who you are just a little bit. And what that means is the person who you are, the person that gets to make these choices, you're changing that person just a little bit more, and it's all happening right now. It's all happening here in the next few minutes, the next few hours, the next few days. It's happening, and you get a chance to direct that. I've been a lot of things over the course of, when we talk about like schools and mascots and colors I've worn and jobs I've had, I've been a lot of things. I was a Meigs Marauder. I graduated from here. Before I was a Meigs Marauder, I was actually a Southern Tornado. I spent the first 7.5 years of my schooling in Racine. I graduated from Meigs. After Meigs, I was a Kentucky Christian University Knight. I was an Eastern Eagle for a few years. I've been an Athens Bulldog. I've been an Ohio University Bobcat, and I could be any number of other things in the coming years. Who knows? Who knows where life is going to take me? But here's the thing about this. No matter where I am, no matter what colors I'm wearing, I get to decide who I am. I get to decide who I'm going to be, the person that I'm going to be. Every single moment of my life, I get to make that decision, and so do you. So do you. That's the beauty of choices. And it's a lesson that I'm thankful that I've learned early on in life, here in these hallways, in these classrooms, from these teachers, from these coaches, from these guidance counselors and custodians, perhaps from some people in times that they never even realized they were teaching me that. I wasn't taught in this place to find myself. I know that's a big thing, find yourself. I wasn't taught to find myself. You was taught, create yourself. Decide who you want to be and create yourself. That's what you need to do. Don't go searching for something out there. You decide what you want to be, who you want to be, and you create it, because you're the one that can do that. And that's what being a Marauder means to me. Let me ask you something. Have you ever looked at your website? You ever looked to see at your school's, the Meigs Local School District website? Well, we're going to put it up here for you. There's a little slogan. Now, some of you who have really good eyesight can see it. Do you know what it says up there? Up there at the top, and I think that shows up on every single page. From the district website, to the elementary website, to the high school website, middle school website. There's a little slogan up there, a little motto. Here's what it says. You can come on back up. This will be your last time. Didn't know you were going to do aerobics today, did you? There you go. That's what it says. Where excellence begins. I love that. I love that motto. I didn't even realize it. Is it painted on the walls anywhere? Is it? Did you guys even know that was there?
In the bathroom.
Now you do. Let me tell you why I love that motto. I love the idea of where excellence begins. Because it communicates a truth that is so vitally important to each one of you, and that truth is this. This is a beginning for excellence. A beginning place. It's not intended to just stop you. This isn't where excellence begins and ends. That's not what it says. It doesn't say where excellence begins and ends. I don't think anybody in these classrooms, in this building, intends for you to just come here and, hey, while you're here, you be excellent. We don't care what you do after that. When you leave out of here at 3:15 or whatever time you're out of school, when you go and do your own thing, when you go out of here and you graduate from here, we don't really care about excellence as much. We just want to make sure that you're excellent here. That's not the goal. And that's why it says where excellence begins. And listen, don't be misled into thinking this either. Don't be misled into thinking that, well, you know what, I don't really have to be excellent here, but I can become excellent in some future time, some other place that I'd rather be someday. That's not the way it works. Don't assume that you can be excellent, that you can just turn it on. That's not the way it works. Excellence is something that you have to begin here, now. It's going to start here. It's not just going to happen to you, and it's not up to somebody else to give it to you. Excellence isn't an external thing that someone just throws at you and now you're excellent. You don't just decide one day to be excellent and then you wake up the next morning, all right, I'm excellent. That's not the way excellence works. Have any of you ever lost weight? You ever tried to lose weight? Losing weight, gaining weight, reshaping your body in some way seems to be a central theme for almost every human being at some point in their life, right? There are times in our lives we decide, hey, we want to lose some weight. So what do? You decide, I want to lose weight. You wake up the next morning, you're 40 pounds lighter. Is that the way it works? Of course not. Right? We don't gain weight that way. Right? You're not going to wake up tomorrow and be 80 pounds heavier. How do you gain weight? You gain weight one little Debbie at a time, right? One Mountain Dew at a time. That's how you gain. You lose weight the exact same way. It's not just something that you just decide to do, and so you are, okay, all of a sudden I've lost weight. No, you have to be really intentional about it. You have to decide, okay, here's my plan. Here's my system that I'm creating for myself. And I'm going to change some habits. I'm going to change some behaviors. I'm going to change some choices. And these are now going to be my choices because this is healthier food. This is not going to be my choice because this is a better way for me to live my life. I'm going to exercise. And so what happens is you're intentional about it. You work really hard at it. And after 2 weeks of being really intentional, working hard, you get back on the scale. And how much have you lost? 1 or 2 pounds. It's discouraging, right? But listen, you keep going. The key is consistency. You keep going, and you keep going, and you keep making those choices. You keep deciding those things. You stay with that system that you know is good for you. You know is best for you. And all of a sudden, you look back after a year. Pretty big difference. That's the way it works, and that's the way excellence works, and you get to choose it. You get to choose it. It can't be given to you. It's not something that anyone else can do for you. It's not something that is up to your teachers to give to you. It's not something that's up to your parents to give to you, your friends to give you, your coaches to give you. It's not up to anybody else. It's up to you. When that Marauder motto says, where excellence begins here, I think what it says to me is, excellence begins with you. When I see that, I internalize that, and I want that to be my life's motto. It begins with me, and so it continues with me then. Even after I leave here, no matter where I am, no matter what circumstances I find myself in, it's going to continue with me, and I'm going to sustain excellence every single day of my life with every single choice that I make, because I understand that choices are the building blocks of habits, and my habits are actually who I am. And you get to choose that. You are where excellence begins. That's what it means to be a marauder. It doesn't stop here. Take it with you. Go out and color the world with the excellence that you began to foster here in this place. Right here. In these classrooms. In this gymnasium. In this weight room. On these athletic fields. In these performance halls. Everywhere. That's what it means. You know, it's a popular thing for people to say to young people, particularly at graduations or commencement speeches, and that is this kind of a phrase: follow your passion. You ever hear that? Find what you're passionate about and follow that. And I'm going to be honest with you. It's a catch. It's like there's a catch to it. But there's always a catch with me. I don't necessarily like that advice. I don't like the advice to follow your passion. And I'll tell you why. Following your passion suggests that you have a passion and it's out there somewhere. And you first have to find it. And then once you find it, you just follow it. You follow it around. And there are a lot of people who were told to follow their passion, and so they're never satisfied with where they are. And so they're always looking out here and they're trying to catch that passion. And they run after that passion. And what happens to a lot of people is they never can catch it. And so they become frustrated. They become discouraged. They give up. And they feel like a failure. And so here's what I want to leave you with, all right? Instead of following a passion, foster a passion. I mean, foster it right now. Inside of you, right now. Foster that passion in you right now. And then take it with you wherever life happens to take you. You may not get to choose to make all those choices about your circumstances, but what you can choose is to foster a passion inside of you, and you go take it, and wherever you find yourself, you start to change that place. Live like that. Foster a passion. Listen, if you want to search for something, if you want to chase after something, chase after opportunity. Search for opportunity. Look for opportunity. Go follow opportunity. And when you do, take passion with you. And you'll find that your life is going to be pretty incredible when you do that, regardless of where you're at, regardless of what you do. And you get to choose that. Well, I better stop. At the beginning, I did say this. I said that I had 3 assumptions. I assumed some things, that there were 3 different kinds of people here. You remember that? But there's actually a 4th assumption that I've made as I've been talking here. And I'm going to tell you what that 4th assumption is. Remember the 3? The first one was, there are people here that are actually excited to be here, and you're looking forward to what I have to say. There's a person here that maybe, or people here that you're indifferent about what I have to say, and you could give it or take it. And then there's a person here that you care less. Not really going to listen. My fourth assumption is this, that perhaps you were person number 3 when we started, and you didn't care. But that something maybe was said over these last 20 minutes or so that challenged something in your mind that maybe caused you to, just for a split second, I mean, it may not have been long because maybe the person beside you was bugging you, I don't know. But just for a split second, you thought to yourself, what if I changed? Is it possible that there is excellence inside of me and no one's ever told me that before? And then that thought left. It's gone. A lot of times that's how it happens. It's just things like this. It's there real quick, and then either we put it away or someone else distracts us and it goes away. And I'm telling you something, it's going to come back. It's going to come back, and it's going to ring in your ears, and I'm hoping that it will ring in your ears all day long. And when it does, allow it to. Perhaps this is your opportunity right now, today. A little spark of passion was trying to stir up inside of you. Allow it to happen. You do it. You foster it. Why? Because this is where excellence begins. In moments like this. Places like this, where you are right now. Marauders, I love you. Thanks for letting me talk to you. Have an awesome homecoming.